Now, the former U.S. President Donald Trump took his defeat in last November's presidential election in bad faith and subsequently pushed the boundaries of the law and other key institutions of state in a bid to overturn the outcome. But he ultimately failed to do so, mainly because of the resilience of those constitutional safeguards in the face of manifest illegality. At the moment, the two chambers of Nigeria's National Assembly have committees up and running, which have been mandated to find a way of tinkering with the supreme document in the land. There have also been arguments for and against the move, but despite mounting opposition, the idea of constitution amendment remains alive and well in Nigeria. In the context of Nigeria's current socio-political and economic challenges, how can this idea fit into a problem-solving template? Now, joining us now for greater insight from the U.S. state of Kentucky is Auwalu Yadudu, a Nigerian academic and professor of law. Welcome to the program, Professor.
Yes, I'm happy to be with you this morning.
Thank you. We're happy to have you on the show as well. Now, Professor Yadudu, let's get your take on the current climate in the United States, juxtapositioning it against Nigeria. We've just seen the inauguration of President Biden and all the fanfare and, of course, the atmosphere surrounding that. Let's get your take on your sentiments around that.
Well, I was not on the front seat to see what was happening, but I watched it maybe a few more kilometers closer to the venue than you are. But it was a spectacular event, one that many felt was being subverted, that it was not going to happen. But it did take place. And what is interesting is actually the address of the president, who clearly saw where the nation was coming from and wanted to have a united States of America and not representing blue or red states, and really speaking as a statesman, and quite a distinction and a difference, a fresh new air in governance at the White House, fresh and different from the 4 years that the nation, this United States of America, have gone through, and the world also has gone through with a president that was all but unruly, uncouth, and not statesman-like, and what have you. So it from all indication, it was a good start, and we look forward to having a new president that will give this nation and the world some direction.
Well, Prof, many commentators described President Trump, former President Trump, as an African president in the United States, in the light of the fact that, of the assumption that if he had been in Africa, he probably would have been able to get away with some of the antics that he tried. But at the end of the day, he didn't succeed. The will of the American people prevailed, as President Biden pointed out yesterday. Now, in that regard, what are the lessons do you think that we can learn as African countries, as African communities, so that we can have that kind of resilience in the face of autocracy, dictatorship, and a fraudulent attempt to subvert the will of the people?
Well, when you say he's an African leader in the United States, I think it is not quite right in that we do have leaders in our continent who have contested elections and who have played by the rule and who have not played the kind of antics that he had played, or maybe some African leaders continue to play. But I think there are many lessons still that one can learn. I don't think it will be good to start off looking at what had happened with former President Donald Trump as something which was reflective of politics and governance in Africa. But, excuse me. Now, the lessons that one can learn. And I think I would start with the most important lesson that we had actually experienced in Nigeria. And Ruben, you were part of that system. I think to contest an election and to be an incumbent and to lose and with grace to accept that you have lost the election and concede is not a small thing in uniting the people, avoiding chaos, respecting institutions, and also constitutional order. So of course, I'm referring to the 2015 election that then President Jonathan lost, and he had the grace to accept, and he had all the opportunity to play the pranks that Donald Trump had played, but of course he had the grace to accept the election, to concede. So it's a lesson that should not be lost on us. It is one also that is homegrown. I mean by that a Nigerian lesson that we can all continue to learn. Now, the fact that what former President Trump attempted to do and did not succeed in the United States is that, first of all, it was unthinkable that a whole set of lies, a whole sorts of deceptions, a whole sorts of conspiracies can be rung around an election only for the purpose of subverting it and also discrediting it and not respecting the will of the people. But of course, at the end of the day, the will of the people prevailed because institutions in this country work. Of course, they have had many years to develop, longer than we have in our countries. And also, I think one has to frankly admit that the judiciary in this country has been quite deferent. Once there is an election in which the will of the people has been expressed, the judiciary in this country and the other institutions would not allow some antics either to frustrate the will or to delay it. You could see there were no delays in disposing of all sorts of cases, over 60 of them filed, but they were all disposed, including an appeal to the Supreme Court. So I think our judicial system and our politicians should learn a lesson. So now, when you refer to the fact that the National Assembly is in the process of amending or altering the constitutional provision, I think there are quite a few things that one would want to see looked at and also maybe tinkered here and there with the kind of lesson that we have learned. Now, the other lesson, of course, is that you could see that partisanship in electoral matters, election in this country, the rules generally are governed. It's a federal election. The election of the president is a federal election. But the electoral rules and regulations and the processes of conducting the election are essentially local matters. By local matters, I mean they are governed by state laws. You could see in the most contested areas, it is former President Trump was picking a quarrel and fighting tooth and nail with officials, election managers in states that his political party controlled. And yet the leaders, those who managed the election in the states, were true to their oath of office, and they were not persuaded by partisanship to frustrate the will of the people, and they told it to his face. So that's another lesson that elections, although managed by local authorities, partisanship should not be in the way of frustrating the will of the people in giving effect to what the will of the people has been expressed.
Professor, you spoke.
Yeah.
Okay.
Professor?
Thank you so much for that insight. But two quick points, Prof. Number one,
Yes.
How can we learn to make our institutions stronger? Why I ask this is, you talked about the fact that, yeah, institutions are stronger, that's why they could avert a coup on American democracy that happened at the Capitol. But when you check in Africa, out of 54 countries, only 14 countries that have not had coups in Africa. In fact, from about 1956, 57 to about 1990, we had over 111 coups in the African continent where we suspended the constitution. What's your take on all that?
I think I would like to think that we have seen the last of the antics of changing government by means other than constitutional provisions. Now, yes, we have had our own share of coup d'etats in Nigeria as well as in other countries. But I think I would have a sense that, especially in the case of our own country, one would say that we've seen the last of that. I think we do not have as strong an institution, or we do not have as strong institutions in Nigeria as they would have here. But I think there is a vibrant civil society and a sense of frustration and being fed up with changes of governance other than by constitutional means that I think, speaking for my country, I would think one would say we've seen the last of that. So it will not be helpful to generalize what has happened, especially in the first 2 decades of constitutional independence, as something that is continuing and that is also viable. These days, I know that it has happened here and there, still in African countries, but I think the wave of disruption of the constitutional order that one had seen in the previous years is not one that one would feel a sense that it will recur, or that it will recur on a continent-wide basis. So maybe then you ask, how do you build institutions? I think building institutions requires the cooperation and participation of all, and also patience. It takes the Americans have had the benefit of over 230 years for the institutions to develop, which have been resilient. We are operating our constitution only for the last 20 years. And I think, which is why I think when people want to throw the rule book or to condemn the constitution that we operate now, however imperfect, one would feel that it is a bit impatient. It is a bit anti-continuity and due process to want to solve your problem by means other than constitutional provision. You can seek to change the constitutional provisions, and that's how institutions develop. All the amendments, excuse me, that have taken place over the years in this country, they occurred because they noticed one defect or another in the constitutional document.
Okay, Prof, we'll take a quick break and we'll come back and we'll talk some more. We'll be right back.
Thank you for staying with us, Professor Yadudu. You spoke earlier about some exemplary African governments in response to Dr. Obati's question. Let's talk about smooth transition of power in relation to African governments. We see how smoothly that went with last night's inauguration and the entire process as well. Let's talk comparatively. We've seen what happened in very recently Uganda. We've had Zimbabwe we can reference, and a few other African governments. Let's talk about smooth transition of power and how cumbersome that sometimes appears to be in Africa.
Well, I think, again, I'll just go back to the point I made of building institutions and looking at the existing constitutional order that you have and tweaking it as you operated over the years, and adjusting things. What had happened, for example, in I can't pass judgment the Ugandan election and other elections has less to do with transition, but more to do with the blind ambition of leaders to not want to leave office, but which they justify by saying that they have subjected themselves to the due process, the electoral process, and then been revalidated. I think you may disagree with them, but I think it is best if one spoke about one's condition and also one's situation. I think speaking for Nigeria, the best one can advocate is that yes, we do not have a constitution that we feel is working as efficiently as we want it, or even it is expensive to operate. All the ills that we can think of it may be justified. But I think the way to go forward would be to look at it and to work within it to improve things, and that way you will avoid, or that way you will facilitate orderly transfer of powers. For example, in the United States, they know the 20th of January is the day that an incumbent takes office. They know that there are steps leading to a verification of results stipulated in laws. Now, I know that we do not have such specific existing, very, very unequivocal pieces of legislation to guide our transition. We might begin to think, because once you have those rules and regulations in place, they help for orderly change, they help for orderly transition. You remember when the election was declared here, it took some time for some institutions, the general services, to make available facilities to the president-elect to facilitate the transfer and transition. But I think the lady who headed, or maybe still heads that office, is operating a piece of legislation that guides her and with which she wants to act, on the basis of which she wants to act to facilitate transition. I would want to see us having similar sets of regulations, rules, and legislative provision that spell out steps by steps so that they will help an institution to become stronger, and also the civil society and the political participants also to be guided and to assist in helping with the peaceful transfer of power that you would want to see all across Africa.
Well, Prof, African countries, Africans generally, have very high expectations about the Biden presidency. One of the things he did yesterday, which further confirmed that hope, was the signing of an executive order reversing immigration restrictions with regard to persons from certain major Muslim countries and also parts of Africa, including Nigeria. But what hopes, how high should we place our hopes in terms of those expectations with regard to U.S.-African relations under a Biden presidency, considering the fact that we had similar expectations when President Obama was president of the United States, and we thought because of his DNA connection with Africa, there would be a lot for Africa, but then it didn't work out that way. Do we have any serious reason to be very optimistic this time around that there will be improvement in U.S.-Africa relations, even with all the Asian-centric focus of some of our African countries and leaders?
Well, I'm not an expert in international relations, but I think one thing one would want to say at this stage is that we should not take too many things for granted. We should not assume that the president would simply come and begin to dole out things to Africans or to Nigeria, and that they have their own national interest. But I think with specific regard to decisions that the president has taken in relation to immigration and the ban, which was discriminatory, it should clearly send signals to the world and to Nigerians and to other African nations that his regime, his administration is open for business, and it is for us to take advantage and to be proactive in engaging the administration. I would not be the one to say that, oh, this is a new president who would just overturn everything and then do things for us that we have not earned or we have not worked for, or that are not proper, or they are not in the best interest of his nation. We must keep that in mind. Now, regarding to what you referred to, President Obama, I think I don't recall that he was that anti-African. Or, of course, he didn't go out to be a Kenyan or maybe to act in according with the DNA, African DNA in him, and to splash goodies on African countries that were unearned. I think basically what is at stake is their own national interests, and they will not do just things that will please us or maybe that will push us up if it does not really tally with their own national interests. I'm sure others who are more informed about how international relations are conducted would have maybe even a better or more nuanced take on that. But I think it's given indications to undo discriminatory practices and actions. We should build on that and also take the administration up. And it's for our own diplomats to work their way to make things happen better for us as Africans or as Nigerians.
Right, thank you so much for that, Prof. There's divisiveness in the world. In America, they are divided, split across the line, conservative, liberal, alt-right, and the likes. In Nigeria, too, we have divisions. Those divisions are around religion, are around farmers and herders crisis. Like if you've been watching the news in Nigeria, a governor gave an ultimatum for herders to leave the state. There's been reactions from the north and the south, brickbat here and there. In America, they're using the Constitution to heal their divisions. In Nigeria, how can we use the Constitution to heal our own divisions?
I think if we act in strict obedience and with respect to constitutional precepts and prescriptions, it will blunt some of the sharp edges of the divisiveness you see in our country. But I think there is more to how you cultivate relations, interreligious, interethnic, interregional, than an appeal or a reliance on the constitution or the law. I think nations develop and relations are cultivated by the actions of individuals and groups and communities that clearly understand their situation and also are geared to foster a cordial relationship. Whatever you may say about the noise and the contestations that you encounter on the pages of the newspaper, in the airwaves, on the social media, how Nigerians, ordinary people, relate in the street, at the marketplaces, and in other situations really gives hope that people want to live peacefully, in good harmony, and respecting one another's differences. It's I think the elite who maybe whip up these emotions and also, instead of them taking the lead, really to cultivate and to mend relations, to foster good neighborliness, they whip up these differences. Now, when you refer to what had happened, or what is reported to have been issued by Governor Yadudu, I would think, I haven't read the text, but I think if he ordered that herders and or Fulanis or whatever should leave his domain, his state, I think that will be utterly wrong. It will be unlawful. It will be unconstitutional. If there are problems that are being encountered with criminals or herders, I think there are legal ways of dealing with those, and it will not be an answer, especially for a senior advocate of Nigeria, a governor of the state, a former president of the Bar Association, to come out and say that leave my domain. I don't think he has those powers, and I think it is wrong.
On that note, Prof, we would like to thank you very much for joining us on today's edition of the Morning Show. Thank you very much, and we wish you all the best in Kentucky, the United States.
I'll be back soon.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll be back soon.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
All the best.